My name is Brian. I'm 28. I work in IT. I like systems that make sense, logic that follows rules. For most of my life, I believe that everything has an explanation. 3 months ago, I bought a one-bedroom apartment in a brand new building on the edge of the city. Sixth floor, corner unit. The street was quiet, barely any traffic, just rows of identical gray buildings sprouting like mushrooms on empty lots. I thought it was a new start, a place to build something resembling peace. At first, it was everything I'd hoped for. Clean walls, big windows, empty hallways. I was the first person to move onto my floor. No kids, no loud neighbors, no footsteps overhead. I spent those first few days unpacking in silence, letting music fill the blank space. Every evening, I'd stand at the window with a mug of coffee and watch the sun bleed out behind the half-finished tower across the road. It wasn't much of a view, just scaffolding, concrete skeletons, and gaps where windows would someday be. But there was one window that caught my eye. On the third evening, I noticed it. One window. It wasn't like the others. Not broken, not missing. Just different. It looked deeper. Not darker in color, exactly, but in a way I couldn't describe. Like it wasn't part of the building. Like it had depth that didn't belong. A black rectangle in a wall of gray. No shadow. No shape. Just void. I told myself it was nothing. A deeper cavity, maybe, or protective film stuck to the glass. I made mental notes to stop obsessing, but every time I approached my own window, it was the first thing I saw. I tried ignoring it, but on the fifth night, it changed. It pulsed. Not brightly, not like a light turning on, just a faint rhythm from deep inside it, like a slow breath, like something shifting behind thick fog. For a moment, I felt it watching me. No face, no outline, just presence. I stepped back. My cup slipped slightly in my hand, coffee sloshing onto my wrist. I stood there, staring at the thing for a full minute before I blinked and the light was gone. That night, I closed the blinds. And yet I couldn't help myself. At 2:13 a.m., thirsty, I went to the kitchen. The blinds were still down, but I peeked between the slats. It was still there. That same window. Still empty. Still watching. Or maybe waiting. I didn't sleep well that night. And in the morning, I noticed something new. The window in my apartment, my actual window, felt different. The frame was wider. Not dramatically. Just off. I grabbed my measuring tape. Something I'd used the week before while assembling shelves. I knew the wall-to-wall width. I remembered it. It had shifted by 3 centimeters. Just enough to notice. Just enough to question if I was losing it. I didn't talk about the measurement to anyone. Who would I even tell? Hey, I think my window grew overnight. It sounded like a glitch in perception, a stress response. So I convinced myself it was an error. Maybe I remembered the number wrong. Maybe I measured from the wrong edge. Easy mistake, right? That day, I worked from home. My company was remote first, and it gave me comfort, staying in, staying rational. I kept the blinds down. I didn't even glance at the window across the street. Not until dusk. I was microwaving leftovers when I felt it again. That sensation, not being watched exactly, more like being seen through, as if something was looking past my skin, straight into the blueprint of me. I walked to the living room. Stood by the blinds, hesitated. Then I lifted one slat. The window was there, still darker than the rest, still deeper. But now it had texture. Not visual, not exactly. It's hard to explain. Like the surface of the glass was rippling slightly, breathing. My fingers clenched around the blinds, and something inside me screamed not to blink. Then I saw it. A pale shape, a curve. A sliver of something rising briefly into frame before vanishing. Like a hand. A white, soft hand brushing past the inner edge of the void. Too long. Too thin. I flinched back. And for the rest of the night, I didn't go near the window. I didn't even walk past it. But in the morning, I looked. Of course I did. The window in my apartment had changed again. The frame had shifted further. This time I didn't even need the measuring tape. The glass itself had bulged. Outward, ever so slightly, as if something was leaning into it from the other side. I opened the building's app. There was a contact form for maintenance. I wrote, "There seems to be an issue with the structural integrity of my window. It appears warped. Can someone inspect it? Also, who occupies Unit 3C across the street? I keep seeing light inside. The reply came the next day. Polite, prompt, and terrifying in its mundanity. Dear Mr. M, thank you for your message. The opposite building is still under construction. No units are operational or inhabited. As for your window, no structural issues were found in blueprints or initial inspections. We could schedule a follow-up visit in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That night, I did something I shouldn't have. I tried to take a picture. I stood at my window, phone in hand, blinds half raised. I pointed the camera directly at the dark window across the street. In the viewfinder, nothing. Not nothing like blackness, but nothing like static, like interference. The whole image shimmered. Even the surrounding building warped like a heat haze. But the window, it was wet. In the image, the window across the street shimmered with a strange, glistening sheen, like condensation, or saliva. And worse, the reflection on the glass didn't match my room. There was no table, no lamp, no me, just a dark, gray room and a tall, narrow silhouette at the center. I deleted the photo. That night, I pushed a chair against the door as if that would help. And still, I barely slept, because just before dawn, something woke me. A sound, click, like metal sliding gently open. I sat up and saw the blinds. They were gone, completely removed. The windows stood bare, pale morning light leaking through. I don't remember removing them. I don't remember touching them. But I remember the window seeming closer. I didn't go to work that day. I couldn't. I sat in the kitchen for 2 hours, staring at the blank window frame in the other room. My blinds gone. Not just pulled up, removed. There were no rails, no clips, no screws. The wall looked untouched, like it had always been bare. I searched the apartment. Nothing. No rolled-up fabric. No metal rod in the closet. Not even dust where the blinds had hung. And the window, it looked cleaner. Polished. Like it had been licked. I told myself I dreamt the whole thing. That my brain was short-circuiting from stress, from isolation. That I was spiraling. So I called a friend. Mike. We'd worked together years ago. Still kept in touch sometimes. He answered on the second ring. Hello. Mike. It's Brian. Silence. Then who? Brian. M. We worked at DevCore together. You helped me move last year. A pause. No, man. Sorry, I don't know you. He hung up. I stared at the screen. I knew it was him. Same voice. Same number. I texted him 3 weeks ago. I checked. But the message thread was gone. Deleted. Like it had never existed. I called another friend. Lena. Voicemail. Tried again. Number not in service. Then I called my mom. This number is no longer in use. Every contact on my phone was grayed out. I opened the camera to check my face, just to see something familiar. Black screen. I flipped to the front camera. Still black. No image. Just the faintest glimmer, like a glass eye looking back. I dropped the phone. While I bent to pick it up, I saw something reflected in the dark screen. My living room. But the window was wrong. It was taller now. Wider. Taking up more of the wall. I turned, slowly, and it was true. The frame had expanded. The glass stretched further to the ceiling. I measured again, this time with panic buzzing in my hands. 17 centimeters wider than yesterday. The change wasn't just perceptual anymore. It was measurable. I grabbed my keys. I had to leave, but my door wouldn't open. The lock turned, the knob twisted, but the door wouldn't budge. It wasn't stuck. It wasn't jammed. It was sealed, like the hallway no longer existed. I backed away. My heart thudded loud in my ears. Sweat cooled on my spine, and from the corner of the room, I heard a click, a soft mechanical sound. I turned to the TV. It was on. I hadn't touched it. The screen was black, but something was playing. Grainy, flickering footage, like an old VHS tape with warped tracking. A room. My room. Same furniture. Same couch. Same angle. And in the footage, I was asleep. Lying on the couch, blanket pulled to my chin, chest rising and falling slowly. But the footage wasn't still. It was live. I looked at the couch in real life. It was empty. I looked back at the screen. The sleeping version of me twitched, shifted, and the window behind him opened. Slowly, silently. A black line formed along the center, widening as if the glass were splitting like lips. And from that gap, something slid through. Pale, elongated, wet. A hand. I lunged and unplugged the TV. Silence returned. I turned to the window. It was closed, but there was a faint smudge at the corner of the glass. A handprint. Not human-sized, not child-sized. Just wrong. It was too long, too low, and it was on the inside. I stopped sleeping. Every night I tried. I really did. I'd lie on the couch with the lights on, fully dressed, clutching my phone like a weapon. But every time I drifted off, I felt it. That pull. Not like gravity. Not physical. It was something behind the glass. Not looking at me, pulling toward itself. Like my mind was being leaned forward, drawn in. A growing pressure in my thoughts, nudging me to notice it, to listen. I started hearing things too. Small sounds. Internal ones. Clicks. Breaths. Slow scraping from deep inside the walls. Not plaster or pipe, but from somewhere farther. Like something was pacing in a narrow space that wasn't supposed to be there. I tried to record it. I downloaded an ambient sound app and left it running while I pretended to sleep. The next morning, the app had crashed. The file was still there, labeled simply, window_recording.mp4. When I hit play, I heard myself breathing. Slow, shallow, then the faint creak of pressure against the window pane. Then a voice. Not speaking, not words, just a single inhaled whisper, as if someone were trying to breathe me in. And then the sound of something dragging across the floor, across my floor, right by the mic. I paused the audio, stared down at my phone, and the screen blinked. Not glitched, not turned off, just blinked. One slow vertical flicker, like an eye closing. I looked up and saw my reflection in the window. Only it wasn't quite me. It was standing too still, breathing too slow, and its eyes were just a little too dark, a little too deep. And then it smiled. I staggered back, tripped, fell against the wall. When I looked again, the window showed nothing but my apartment, just me just now. Normal, but I didn't go near it the rest of the day. Instead, I tried to email someone, anyone. I opened my laptop. All my files were gone. Not corrupted, not deleted, just blank. Every folder was labeled untitled. Every document was a string of static, like my keyboard had glitched while I typed in my sleep. The internet didn't work. No connections. No Wi-Fi. Even hotspot failed. So I took a pen and paper, actual paper, and wrote everything I could remember. Measurements, dates, descriptions, drawings. And then I filmed a room. I made a full video tour of the apartment. Window, couch, wall, everything. Just to have proof. That night, I tried to play it back. The file was there. But when I hit play, it wasn't the same recording. It was me, yes. Same clothes. Same room. But I was standing in front of the window, staring into it, and saying nothing. Just breathing. Slow. Rhythmic. In time with the faint pulse of dim light deep inside the other building's black window. In the last frame, right before the video cut out, I lifted my hand and placed it gently on the glass. From the other side, a white hand met mine. Only mine was still holding the phone. Something's wrong with time here. I don't mean I'm blacking out. I mean the clock is lying. At 3:42 a.m., I was sitting on the kitchen floor writing. Next time I looked at the microwave display, it read 7:19 p.m. The light outside hadn't changed. It was still dark. Still that same shadowed hue just before sunrise. The same clouds unmoving above the construction site. I checked my phone. Battery at 92%. But the clock? 11:11 a.m. Laptop? 6:06 p.m. Watch. Dead. I walked to the window. Outside, the sky held still like a pause video. No wind. No cars. No birds. And then the window pulsed. Just once. A slow, vertical twitch, as if the surface had flexed. I backed away step by step. And that's when I noticed something else. Something real. Something missing. The corner of the room, the one near the coat rack, was gone. Not empty. Gone. The geometry was off. What should have been a 90-degree angle was now a curve, like the wall had been chewed into, smoothed out. I walked toward it slowly, heart hammering. When I reached the spot, I could see that about a foot of space had vanished. Not filled in. Not covered. Just erased. Like the apartment had forgotten part of itself. I touched the wall where it should have been. It was warm, damp, the same texture as the glass had become. Breathing almost, like skin stretched over frame. I stepped back and grabbed my phone to record it. But when I aimed the camera, the footage didn't show what I saw. It showed the normal corner. Coat rack, sharp corner, white wall. But in the real world, the rack was gone. There was only a curve, a missing space. I touched the wall again, and I swear to God, something moved behind it, like a shoulder brushing past from the other side. I dropped the phone. The moment it hit the floor, the kitchen light flickered, and from the hallway, I heard a sound I hadn't heard in days. A knock. 3 short taps. I froze. There shouldn't be anyone else here. Not on this floor. I was the first one to move in. I knew that. I approached the door. Heart hammering. Another knock. Louder this time. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. Just the empty hallway, dimly lit by the overhead bulb. But then, movement. A figure stepped into view. Slowly. Deliberately. Not walking, drifting. I couldn't make out its face. It was wrapped in something pale like gauze or skin or plastic pulled too tightly. And it was tall. Too tall. It didn't knock again. Just stood there, breathing. I stepped back out of sight and heard it whisper just once. Through the door. Through the wall. Through me. A single word. Closer. I locked myself in the bathroom. Sat on the floor. Shaking. But even there, I wasn't safe. Because the mirror had vanished. All that remained was a stretch of smooth wall. Seamless. Like the mirror had never been there. Like it had been absorbed. And faintly, from the tiles behind me, came the same pulsing breath I'd heard behind the window. I didn't sleep. I didn't try. But at some point, I woke up anyway. I was still on the bathroom floor, sitting upright, back to the tub. But everything had changed. The air was heavy, humid and metallic, like a room exhaling rust. The lights were off. My phone was missing. I stood up, slowly, and realized something was wrong with the door. It wasn't where I left it. It had shifted 3 feet to the right. The tiles, too, a new pattern, unfamiliar. Cracks in the wall that hadn't been there before, curving like veins. I opened the door. The hallway outside was wrong. Stretched, narrow, and too long. The walls bowed slightly inward, like the entire space had grown soft and was now sagging inward under its own weight. It wasn't drywall anymore. It felt organic. I walked forward, trembling, hand against the wall. It felt warm, moist, like something alive, pretending to be apartment walls. My living room was ahead. The lights were on, and the window was now the entire wall. Floor to ceiling, corner to corner. No frame, no glass I could see, just a black, rippling expanse where the outside used to be. The building across the street was gone, replaced by a shifting, endless depth, like staring into a throat that never ended. And behind it, shapes, moving, slow and deliberate, not crawling, pacing, like it knew I was awake. Then I heard it again, the sound I now feared more than anything. Footsteps, but not from behind, from inside the window. They didn't echo, they didn't crunch, just a dull, rhythmic pressure like someone walking barefoot on flesh. I turned to run, but the hallway I just walked through? Gone. The bathroom door, the walls, replaced by a smooth, featureless surface. It was just me, and the window, and the thing inside it getting closer. I grabbed the chair from the living room and hurled it at the wall beside the window. It sank into the surface with a low, wet thud, like throwing furniture into a stomach. The chair vanished. No noise, no break, just gone. I looked back at the window, and now there was a copy of me in it. Not a reflection, not a trick of the light. It was standing there inside the glass. Same clothes, same posture, but its eyes were wrong. Too wide, too black, and it was smiling again. Slowly, it raised its hand and pressed it against the inside of the glass. My skin went cold, because it wasn't touching glass. It was touching the air. There was nothing between us anymore. The surface was gone. There was no longer a window, just a threshold. I ran. There was nowhere to run to, but instinct didn't care. My legs moved before thought could catch up, through the room, away from the opening, toward a hallway that shouldn't have been there. But every turn led me back. To the window. The apartment had folded. Like a paper box crushed from above, all directions bent inward, no matter where I went. Every doorway led back to the living room. Every room was the same room, and every time I entered, the window grew. It wasn't just a threshold anymore. It was a presence, a void that pulsed with breath, with intent, and something inside it was stepping forward. I try not to look, but when I blinked, I saw it anyway, burned into the backs of my eyes. The shape in the dark. It looked like me, not a reflection, not a twin, but something wearing my face the way people wear coats. Loosely. Wrong. Its movements were stiff at first, like it was learning the weight of a body, testing limbs, and then it began to walk. Across the window, but not behind it, not inside it. Across it, like the surface was no longer glass, but space. Like the pane of the window was now the only real floor. It stepped to the edge and looked out at me. There were no eyes, just black holes. And then it tapped the glass, softly, once, and the entire apartment shuddered. Walls pulsed, light flickered, and something shifted under my feet, like the floor wasn't solid anymore, like it was breathing. I screamed. I didn't know what else to do. A primal, broken sound, a final defense against silence. But the thing at the window just tilted its head, then smiled, and behind that smile, I saw the truth. It had always been here. Long before me, long before the apartment was built, long before buildings. It wasn't coming through the window. The window was coming through me. And now I was ready. I turned in desperation, grabbed the front door. It opened. The hallway was back. But wrong. All wrong. Floors sloped upward into nothing. Walls bled into themselves. And at the far end, something waited, tall and white and twitching with eagerness. I slammed the door, collapsed against it. Silence returned. For a moment. Then, a whisper, not from the window, from the ceiling, right above me. One word, carved into the air like a surgical incision. Let. Then another, seconds later. Me, then, slowly with weight. In. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember deciding anything anymore. But I woke up on the ceiling. Or maybe the floor had turned. I stood, gravity confused, room upside down. Furniture bolted to nothing. Window above me now. A yawning sky of black, pulsing quietly like a throat before scream. And I knew then I wasn't in my apartment. Not really. Not anymore. I was inside it. The other place. The one that had always stared through the window, whispering in silence, breathing through the glass. And it was vast. A hollow version of my home, stretched and rotting. A funhouse mirror of dust and meat. Walls were the color of bruised paper. Light came from no source, but soaked every surface in gray. I moved through the space, careful not to breathe too loud. Because it was here, the thing, the me not me that had been pressing closer for days. I could feel it now, walking with me, step for step behind the walls. Not following, not hiding, mirroring. I reached for my phone, found it in my pocket, cracked screen, battery red. No service. No clock, just one notification blinking. Window connected. I dropped it. I wasn't alone anymore. The space shifted. A ripple moved across the floor, like fabric being dragged. Like skin. I turned a corner and saw my kitchen, inverted and dripping. And at the far end, myself, sitting at the table, calmly sipping coffee. But not quite me. It had no face. Just an empty, moist patch where features should be. Like clay never sculpted. But it turned to look at me anyway, and smiled. Mouthless. I backed away. The walls closed behind me, literally stretching across the hallway like curtains of muscle. No way out. No light. No breath. And then I heard it. My voice. But not from me. From everywhere. Repeating one sentence, over and over, like an incantation. You brought it with you. You brought it with you. You brought it. I collapsed. Cover my ears. But the words didn't stop. They were inside my head. And then the lights flickered. And I saw the window again. Not framed in a wall. Not part of the room. It was the room. Every surface, every texture, every sound. The same material as the black window. Glassless, eyeless, infinite. And in the center of it, a door. Just standing there. Not connected to anything. Freestanding in the dark. It was my front door. Apartment 6C. Same scratches on the handle. Same dent at the bottom. but something breathed on the other side, and the doorknob turned. The doorknob kept turning. Not fast, slow, deliberate, like whoever, whatever, was on the other side already knew I wouldn't run, because there was nowhere to go. The space behind me had sealed itself again. The air smelled like warm copper. The floor throbbed gently beneath my feet. I could feel a heartbeat in it, not mine. I should have screamed, but screaming felt useless here. Sound didn't carry in this place. It only sank. So I walked forward. 3 steps. 4. My hand reached for the knob just as it clicked into place. Unlocked, and the door began to open on its own. What I saw wasn't a hallway. It wasn't a room. It was a version of my apartment. Upside down, color drained, soft around the edges, like a memory being slowly digested. And inside it stood me. Or the other. It wore my body more comfortably now. Face sculpted perfectly. Hair, stubble, even a scar above my brow. It had learned. And it smiled. Wide. Patient. I couldn't speak. My voice didn't come. But it didn't need words. It stepped aside, gesturing toward the center of the room. And there, where my coffee table should have been, was the window. Just a window. Freestanding. Floating upright. Flickering gently, like heat rising off a road. And behind it, behind the black pane of endless depth, I saw flashes. Moments. My moments. Lying in bed as a child, staring at the crack beneath the closet. Walking alone at 3 a.m., convinced something was behind me. Waking from a dream of a face at the window, not outside but inches from the glass on the inside. They were all there. Stored. Remembered. By it. By the thing behind the window. And the other, the version of me that wasn't, stepped to the side and pointed at the glass. Then to me. Then to itself. And I understood. Not in words. In feeling. It wasn't trying to invade. It was offering. An exchange. It wanted to cross. To come through. But only if I let it. If I stood where it stood. If I stepped into the window. It was a deal older than thought. A ritual played out in silence across uncounted thresholds. And now was my turn. I walked to the glass. I looked into it. And it blinked. Not a reflection. Not a trick. An eye. Alive. Watching me. Waiting. And slowly, I reached out my hand to press against the surface, just as something on the other side did the same. Our palms met. Only there was no glass. Just a sensation. Falling forward. Like tripping in a dream. Like stepping into water. Like being unwritten. I fell for a long time. But it wasn't like falling through air. There was no wind. No motion. No body. Just depth. Just the sensation of being peeled back from the inside. Identity loosening. Thought softening. Like memory was only ever skin. And something beneath it had always been waiting to emerge. When I stopped falling, I was standing. Somewhere very quiet. Somewhere clean. My apartment. Bright, crisp, ordinary. Everything exactly where it had been that first week. Couch centered, blinds neatly drawn, my favorite mug on the table. No pulse in the walls. No breath in the light. Sunset glowed orange across the glass. And the window? Normal. I walked toward it, trembling. Not because I feared what I'd see, but because I feared what I wouldn't. And sure enough, the building across the street was back. Unfinished. Gray. Empty windows. All of them dark. Except one. That same window. The one I'd stared at for days. And from the other side of it, something stared back. But it wasn't the other. It was me. The old me. Face pale. Eyes wide. Mouth open in silent horror. Watching me from a void, just as I once watched it. Trapped. It raised a hand. Pressed it to the glass. Begging. But I didn't move. I didn't speak. Because I was already home. The phone on the table buzzed. I picked it up. The screen lit normally. Contacts returned. Apps opened. The camera worked. Everything perfect. Except, in every photo, my eyes were black. In every mirror, my face didn't blink. I get calls sometimes now. From numbers I don't know. Voices whispering from far away. Where are you? We can't find you. Come back. I don't answer. Because the window is closed. Because I made my choice. And because now, I am the view.